Hey everyone, welcome back for another episode in Adventures of Comprehension. My name is Ciera Harris. I am the author behind Ciera Harris Teaching. Tonight we're going to be working on or talking about transforming students into readers. So if you haven't done so already, drop a comment below and say hi. Let me know where you're from, what grade you teach, and let me know, let's see, I always try to ask a fun question. Let me know what novel or you're reading right now, whether it be in the classroom or maybe for yourself. What are you currently reading? So we're going to dive into number one. Is going to be books must be a priority. So I want you to take a quick moment and reflect with me and answer these questions. Are you ready? How much time in a day are you giving your students to read independently? Are you reading out loud to them every single day? What do you do to celebrate and experience new books in the classroom? How engaged are your current readers? And what does your classroom library look like? And you may think like, these questions may not mean a lot, but the reason I'm asking these questions is because I want you to see whether or not books are a priority in your classroom. When books are priority, it shows in the day-to-day actions of what happens in your classroom. There is time in a day always to squeeze in one more chapter because the students are on the edge of their seat, right? It's about the culture that you start creating from day one. So students will be surrounded by your literacy-rich environment that you are creating, and they will have no choice but to fall in love with reading. They may be in here, you may be like, absolutely, books are a priority. But does it show in your day-to-day actions? Does it show in your the priorities you set in your classroom? Does it show to your students, right? Above all else, is reading the most important thing. All right, after that, step number 2 is to know your readers. There is no such thing ever as a student who does not like to read. It is not a thing. There are only students who have not been matched or paired with the perfect book yet. Getting to know your students starting on day 1 is actually crucial to the love of reading process, especially for your reluctant readers. Teachers need to know who their readers are, as readers and as people. It even helps with understanding their schema. By getting to know your students and getting to know their schema, you know where there are gaps, and then you know what schema they have, and then you can utilize that schema to pick the right book to then help support them with their overall comprehension. So if you don't know your students, it's going to be very, very difficult to build that culture of literacy in your classroom. Number 3 is student choice. So if love of literacy is something that you want to accomplish in your classroom, which clearly I believe it is, then shoving pre-selected books into students' hands just doesn't work. Now, if you have reluctant readers who maybe aren't picking the right book and you need to help them match, that's fine, but you're still giving them a voice. So student choice is critical to allow students to find and read books that are meaningful to them. So student choice doesn't just have to be for independent reading time. This can go even further. You can also incorporate student choice into your read alouds, so letting them pick your read alouds, into your small group sessions, and even your text passages during lessons. Right? If you're doing a lesson on main idea, let them choose. So how could this work? Well, here's a great little example. Give them options. It doesn't take that much time to find 2 texts that work for your lesson rather than just 1. So yes, it does mean you're not going to give them hundreds of options, right? Having a choice out of option A and option B is already, doubly better than having no option at all. So you are going to find passages, maybe 2, maybe 3, that work for your lesson, and you're going to give them a choice. So if you're doing a lesson on main idea and you want everyone to fill out this graphic organizer, that's great. Why not give them a choice on what passage they read? Here's one about spiders. If you make me read that, I'm going to hate it, right? Spiders, saying the word even just gets me to my core. I can't stand it. So having me read it and then having visualizing those ucky bugs, I can't do it. But if I had a choice and maybe I was reading about baking, right? Oh, I like to bake. That's cool. I'm going to pick that one. And maybe choice C is about soccer, right? So we've got 3 different nonfiction passages. All of them are on grade level. All of them work with the graphic organizer. Why not give them choice? And so student choice can go more into your day-to-day lessons than just that independent reading. So it's really important. Allowing students to have that voice in what they are encouraged to read, it helps to motivate them, it helps to engage them throughout the whole text, and it encourages them to be present in the text. Hey everyone, so sorry to interrupt, but I want to make sure that you are loving the content coming from Ciera Harris Teaching on YouTube. So make sure if you are loving this to subscribe and also like and comment below. I would love to hear from you. All right, so number 4 for transforming our students into readers is to make literacy engaging. So in your 90-minute reading block, or however much time you have, right, you will clearly be doing much more than just reading. The other components of literacy, such as vocabulary, phonemic awareness, phonics, and fluency, right, along with comprehension, they also need time to be taught. So even comprehension skills and strategies need to be taught outside of using a text. So when wanting to build a love of reading, engagement must be intentional and thought out in your lesson plans. Here are some things that we can do to make sure that our literacy block, or specifically our comprehension focus, is engaging. Number 1, use discussion strategies such as jigsaw or the fishbowl, or I have a resource on TBT that's over 60 different engagement strategies. If you would like the link to that, let me know below and I'd be happy to get that for you. But be intentional about picking a strategy and putting it in your lesson plan that's going to get your students up, moving, and talking to one another and really getting their hands dirty with the text. Try to make activities hands-on, movable pieces, coloring, highlighting, cutting and gluing. Just because they're in 4th, 5th grade doesn't mean they don't like to do those things. Another thing you can do is incorporate games. 4 corners is super fun. You want to try different grouping strategies. So let the students interact with new people. Also, focus on texts that have interests that they are actually interested in. This goes back to knowing your students and being intentional about selecting text. And then finally, be engaging yourself. I can have the most boring lesson in front of me, the most boring text, and you better believe I'm going to be the engaging one. I'm going to be the one who is up there. And I'm not going to get on top of tables and dance and sing, but I'm going to be moving around that classroom. I'm going to be very dynamic in my voice. I'm going to be very engaging with how I ask students questions and get answers and my hand motions. And I'm going to be putting on a show for these students because I want to engage them. I want them to have fun while learning. But number 5 is to engage in conversation. So having conversations or engaging your students in conversations is really important to be able to get them to be the reader who they can be. Reading, especially learning how to read and comprehending, needs to be a social experience. So students need to hear from each other. They need to hear each other's takeaways from the text. How are their thoughts different from somebody else's? How are their own thoughts different from their neighbors? What connections did their neighbors make that maybe they missed on picking up on those? How did they use their schema when they read this time versus how did other people in the class use their schema? So when we provide times for conversation, it allows the students time to dissect what they just have read. And then they get the chance to go back into the story, right? And check their own understanding. The students get time to make meaning by putting themselves into the story. They get to hear other people's takeaways. They get to compare their own. It's not always about the answer, right? Sometimes it's about how you get to the answer. By building their understanding and comprehension through conversation, we are teaching and modeling the conversations that they actually should have in their own mind when they read independently. Yep. I can't wait to hear which one out of the 5 we talked about tonight you're going to focus on. Thank you so much for joining tonight. I had a great time chatting with you, and I will talk to you all soon. So have a great evening. Bye.